set? All right, good evening everyone. This is Dr. Schilling with this week's Wednesday Wellness Minutes coming to you live from Sequoia Health. And we're excited to bring you this segment. As you noticed in the previous taglines, basically what it talks about is stop talking about your wounds and your problems and things that are holding you back and do something about them. We've talked a lot about QNRT and the neuroemotional rebalancing, repatterning we do here at Sequoia Health many times before, alluding to the stresses, toxins, foods, hormones, infections, things like that that affect us all. So I just want to give you kind of a brief synopsis. So stay tuned till the end. We're going to show you a couple things as far as kind of how we access the brain. We'll talk about a bunch of different stuff. We'll see how much we can get done in a concise, short period of time. But if you want to think about your health, your life, your optimal health is really related to 5 things. Your emotional health, your intellectual health, your physical health, some might argue the spiritual health, your social interactions. But if you understand that your relationships are the greatest predictor of your health in the future, that's going to give you a good appreciation for if you have any of those relationships in your life that aren't going so well, you might want to invest a good portion of your energy into remedying those and helping them be better so that you can live your best life, okay? So optimal health is optimal energy, optimal sleep, optimal digestion, optimal aging, shall we say, optimal mood, good balance of your stress response with your ability to sleep well. So if you are one that falls asleep, or I should say tries to fall asleep at night and has trouble, or lays in bed and then wakes up shortly after that because you're immediately alert, that tells you that your immune system and your nervous system are on high alert, which is not good for your overall health, nor is it good for your longevity. It's going to, basically if you are feeling like you're in a cave with a T-Rex hiding outside waiting to get you when you walk out, you're going to be, tight and stressed the whole time. So keep that in mind. Your brain has about 100 billion neurons in it. It weighs about 3 pounds, and so it doesn't seem like much, right? So I'm 190 some pounds, and I have a 3-ish, call it a 5-pound brain. I don't know, I'm kidding. But we all have about 100 billion neurons in our brain. But our brains use 25% of all the power and resources our body has. So 1/4 of everything that happens here is used by the noodle between my ears, which is pretty profound. So some factors that you understand that dysregulate your brain, some of your genetics, but your DNA is not your destiny. Your DNA is your opportunity. So understand that just because you inherited something, like most people think of like cancer or Lou Gehrig's disease or MS or something like that as far as I inherited something, but you can inherit a personality trait. You can inherit a wiring thing, like let's say you're like your mom, where you're both anxiety-ridden or high anxiety stuff. What happens over time is that emotional and mental neurological dysregulation leads to dis-ease. So dis-ease. So not quite disease yet, but dis-ease. And then ultimately, if you let it hang around long enough, you're going to have what a medical doctor might label as a disease, so a pathology. But in the absence of physical trauma, the body breaks down on the inside before the outside. As a result, if you can help heal those neuroemotional traumas and things like that from your past, you can help your emotional health improve, but that's also your physical health improve, and that's where life happens. QNRT is based on the ACE study. If you're not familiar with the ACE study, it's the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study. An insurance company called Kaiser Permanente and the CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention. We all know the other acronym, which I've mentioned a few times before, something related to confusion or something like that. But the ACE study, it involved over 10,000 people. It was a longitudinal study, and they followed people throughout life. And this experiment, shall we say, this tracking system has been repeated several times over the years. And what you understand is the greater number of ACE events, the adverse childhood experiences, that you have in your lifetime is the greater predictor of your ill health later on. Now that could turn into cirrhosis of the liver, that can turn into early onset of sexual behavior or drinking, things like that. But there's a whole study on this. In fact, they know that the greater reason people have ill health is because of the emotional traumas they suffer as children. So if you can't go back and change it, which we know we can't, it's better to heal it now. So if you haven't been to www.cdc.gov/ACE, www.cdc.gov/ACE, that's where you can find more information about the ACE study. And basically, this is your adverse childhood experiences are going to increase your risk of your ill health over time. Now, what is an ACE event? Alcoholism or alcohol abuse by a parent or by yourself as a coping mechanism. It could be depression, your depression or a parent's or loved one's depression in your family. Insomnia is a long-term issue. You can have anxiety, which is, of course, that can lead to insomnia because you can't sleep because you're in high alert the whole time. Heart disease, liver disease, chronic pain, all kinds of stuff. Post-traumatic stress disorder from people that have been in war and things like that. Adolescent abuse, it can be physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, monetary abuse. It can be parents withholding resources like food or clothing and things like that. You can have adolescent pregnancy as an adverse childhood experience. A parent who is absent long periods of time or has died is a big adverse childhood experience. Parents who are sick, alcoholic parents, drug abuse parents, drug abusing parents, those are all ACE events. So the list is quite lengthy. You can see that at cdc.gov/ACE. So what happens is your physical symptoms are really a sign of dysregulation in your brain. If you understand, like if I haven't fallen down off a ladder, fallen off the roof, been hit by a car on my bike, or if I haven't been in a car accident, there's no physical trauma from the outside, but yet I have symptoms. Very strange, right? Why is that? Well, if you've heard us speak before, you understand that in different medicine theories, the right side of the body is masculine, the left side of the body is feminine. So I'll give you a personal example from my life. My mom had MS 6 years before I was born. She was manic depressive, sometimes suicidal before I was the age of 5. My parents divorced when I was 8 or 9, and as a result, you get a whole string in there of ACE events. So I probably had 4+ ACE events by the time I was 3, if you want an example. How does that manifest in my health? Well, I had massive gut disturbances. I had leaky gut, still battle that today as far as that goes. Food sensitivities, asthma, eczema, scratching till I had blood, all kinds of fun stuff. But they also manifest in other ways, right? So for example, most of my symptoms show up on my left side, interestingly enough. My father had his own business when I was a child. He was traveling a lot. My mom stayed home and was the stay-at-home mom before they split. And so my interaction with her was much more profound than it was with him per se. So let's just say, for example, not incidentally, I broke this finger playing football in college, dislocated this finger twice, so left side, right? Why nothing on my right side, okay? I did instantly tear this rotator cuff and tendonitis in the elbow on the right side playing baseball. That's a little different. It never became a chronic issue. Chronic issues with the shoulder, right? Let's see what else. Varicose vein, left side. So all the stuff shows up on my left side. Why is that? Fascinating, you might say. Why not more on the right side? Well, Dad had a reasonable head on his shoulders, even though he was under a lot of stress. So I had more neuroemotional challenges related to my mom, her being absentee, as far as emotionally withdrawn and things like that. So that had a much stronger imprint on me than my right side. So I don't have a lot of symptoms show up on my right side. I do have some, but nothing compared to the left side. So that's just going to give you an example of how the absence of trauma, even though these were, like why didn't I break the finger in this hand, or things like that, they show up on the side where there's a predisposition to weakness, okay? Lack of energy flow through the meridian systems out here, whether it's the small intestine, large intestine, it shows up in different ways. We don't have time to get into that right now. When you get involved in this long enough, you start doing what's called neurofeedback or brain training. So we work on people's brains, helping them not just eliminate their stress traumas from the past, but also balancing their delta, their theta, their alpha, their beta, and their gamma waves in their brain. And it's for a whole other segment, because we could talk about that for hours, but understanding delta is deep sleep, theta is your lucid dreaming, alpha is your relaxation, and beta is your thinking, I'm problem solving, I'm using my creative brain, things like that. So, examples. So, perinasal sinus is like things that stink, things that are offensive. Weight gain can be related to inability to digest, inability to accept things into your body and or eliminate them. Chronic pain, resurgent anger and things like that. There's all kinds of stuff that this is related to that affects you. Anxiety and vulnerability, occipital lobe in the back of the head, when you're afraid, it's almost like your eyes, like uncertain, under attack some way, shape, or form. We've talked about breast issues in the past, whether it's ductal or glandular, nest worries, nest conflicts and things like that. Colon is, indigestible anger and stuff like that, lack of control. Small intestine is a lot about acceptance, if you're familiar with that. Other self-acceptance, because you have to accept yourself before anybody else can accept you for who you are. Lungs is fear. I look back on my life and I think to myself, having had asthma for 30 years before I worked through countless supplements with PEMF and gut cleanses and then neuroemotional repatterning, being able to find the looking back now saying, okay, I was just really afraid of failure and it crippled my lungs. I was a very successful athlete, played college football at the D2 level, but I was still limited because I was always afraid of going over, pushing too far, right? And that manifested in constricted airways. Like, if your body constricts you, you're never going to risk failing, right? It's pretty interesting how this works. So I personally believe that there are no mysteries in healthcare. No matter what symptom you have, no matter what condition you have, no matter what thing you got going on in your life, we can help you trace it back to the relationship and the root cause and where it is. There's no mysteries anymore. People need to feel safe. People need to feel loved. They need to feel like they have connection and that they have contribution. So these are some of the basic human needs. And if you don't have that, you can easily trace back into your brain what part of the brain is being affected and things like that, because there's nothing that happens by chance. What's important is to understand is that it doesn't matter if you smash my thumb with a hammer or if I'm stressed out because of some type of relationship. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Like, if I have an adverse experience when I'm a child and I close my eyes now at my tender age of 42 and I imagine it, I will have the same symptoms in my body as I did then. The same reaction. The most powerful chemistry lab in the planet is between your ears. And you can manifest different reactions in your body just as much as if they were happening to you right now. That works on the other way too. It doesn't have to be all bad. You can close your eyes and imagine how grateful you feel when your job is going fantastic, or your relationship's going fantastic, or you have everything you ever wanted or needed, and you fill yourself up with that gratitude. You can create the hormones of gratitude and joy and oxytocin and all kinds of fun stuff, growth hormone even, by the process of meditating or praying or closing your eyes and just being grateful for things. So it's really important to understand that your brain does not know the difference between physical stress and emotional stress. It breaks it down just the same way, okay? Let's see. When you have a stress response, you're going to increase your cortisol or your epinephrine, okay? Well, first of all, it's epinephrine, so adrenaline, right? Adrenaline rises, which then causes your blood sugar to rise because your brain thinks, I got to get out of here. I need to either fight, I need to run, or hide, one of the three. What that does is over time, it breaks down your B vitamins and you get taxed. And then you become emotionally stressed out even more because now you're getting tired, you can't do as much as you want to. And now you're looking at really, oh my gosh, now fatigue starts setting in. It's that deep gnawing fatigue, like you wake up in the morning, you feel like, oh, I got hit by a truck. You've probably been there before, if not every day of your life. That is just a stress from the day before that never went away and you never recovered. I think of depression as a feeling like tomorrow's not going to be any better than yesterday, and then anxiety creeps in and you say, oh my gosh, tomorrow's not going to be any different than yesterday or today. So it's the fear of the future, and then depression is the sadness because the future looks just like the old one. Okay, it's some facsimile thereof, and that's not to diminish anyone's depression or anxiety. Please hear me loud and clear. That has nothing to do with what you're experiencing. That's a generalization. Okay, so just hear that loud and clear. But sleep loss gets affected by excess cortisol and adrenaline, which means that ends up leading to memory loss and things like that. So very profound effects. But B vitamins turn into lactic acid depletion, or inability to clear lactic acid, which then of course, if you've heard of fibromyalgia, a lot of tenderness in the tissues. If you basically touch 9 different places in your body, you're gonna have fibromyalgia. So a lot of people can fall into that. But your tryptophan's not being converted. Your serotonin governs last 4 hours of your sleep, melatonin the first 4 hours of your sleep, things like that. People start gaining weight because they can't detoxify. Their brains are in starvation mode, more so neuroemotionally than they are physically, because Lord knows we are overfed and undernourished in this country, in the United States. We eat a lot of food-like particles, food-like substances, but they're not really food. So most people reach for drugs, alcohol, some other thing to sedate their pain because they don't know how to change how they feel. Everybody's just looking for the greatest slice of pie they can. So what they're doing is they're trying to say, how can I sedate my pain and how can I feel better? So whether that's food, alcohol, drugs, any controlled substances, coffee is fantastic. Feeling uncertain about yourself, feeling unsure, feeling like lack of control, go get yourself a cup of Joe. Okay, you can get all jacked up, feel woohoo, get some mental clarity from the caffeine, and you get power again. Yes, And then 2 hours later, you're like, oh my God. Go stumble over the coffee pot, and there you go for another cup. So just keep that in mind. Emotional stress over long-term periods can then lead to digestive upsets, a lack of sphincter control, so your stomach, the muscle on top of your stomach, that'll lose function. And then you have, of course, your anal sphincter, which is your rectum, and that either will stay open or not open at all for people who are constipated from prolonged stress and things like that. But people can get ulcers, people can get hemorrhoids, IBS symptoms, ileocecal valves go crazy, because and then you get potential SIBO from your colon bacteria leaking back into your small intestine. I mean, the effects and potential effects are very significant. So when you think about neuroemotional stress, if you have a symptom in your body in the absence of trauma, first thing you want to do, whether it's a physical symptom like a pain in a joint or pain in a muscle, or a symptom from the immune system, you always want to look in your life and say, where's the stress that I'm not dealing with? What am I not dealing with? Because that is creating your symptom. Remember, in the absence of trauma, the body breaks down on the inside before the outside. If you understand that, then you're going to appreciate that, oh, okay, I'm having a symptom. Whether I got a sniffly nose, I got a cough, I got a sore throat, I got digestive upset, what is it? Look in your life and say, what am I not addressing? Okay, I guarantee that's there. Over time, high cortisol leads to hormonal imbalances. You get menstrual irregularities. For women, they get blood sugar dysregulation. They start getting more androgen, so they get hair in places they don't want it. They get PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, polycystic breast issues, and things like that. Big time problems. Infertility is a big problem with chronic prolonged stress. And then, of course, you get the males. Males with high cortisol typically get low T, low testosterone. So you get andropause is what they call it. So low testosterone, but really it's related to the chronic, unrelenting high stress that people are living in. And then they get more estrogenic. Women get more androgenic, more male hormones like testosterone. Men get more estrogenic. It's really interesting how it works. So you can see the feminizing of the entire male population, not just in the U.S. but around the world, with all the chemicals we're exposed to, which are xenoestrogens, environmental toxic estrogens, plus blood sugar dysregulation from all the garbage we're eating, and it's a recipe for disaster. So women are becoming more like men, and men are becoming more like women. Pretty exciting. Anyway, then you start using all your cortisol, you're losing your cholesterol, you're getting high cholesterol because your body's trying to build more hormones. I mean, the list goes on and on. So if you want to understand what the root cause of all your problems are, for the most part, it's the traumas in your past, and it's sitting right in front of your nose because it's the people in your life that are causing the stress in your life. Okay? So QNRT works by releasing the stress, reprogramming it, and then resetting the nervous system. So I describe it as we find the stressor, own it, feel it, reset it, and forget it. So find it, own it, feel it, reset it, and forget it. Because the more profoundly you can feel it, the better. Which means your nervous system you kind of brought up to the surface and you've got it on your dashboard. I think of it as like double clicking on a bunch of file folders and bringing it up on the screen so it's right there in front of you. So when you want to release the adverse patterning that you either learned from mom and dad or your aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, and or what you inherited, so negative patterns and core drivers respectively, reprogramming the mechanism so it gets locked in the nervous system. And we'll talk about in a minute here the tissues it gets locked in. But it's really interesting how, if you understand your body is your subconscious brain, and you hold your subconscious stresses in your body. You don't get butterflies in this corner of your head. You don't get sad and grief over here. You get grief and heaviness in your chest when you're sad in the morning. You get butterflies in your stomach. You get a pain in your, I'm not kidding, but I'm kidding, but at the same time. You get pains in different areas because it's a manifestation of your brain sensation of what's going on. Just think of your symptoms as check engine lights from your car. If one flashes, you better get that checked out. If you let it go long enough, guess what? Thing breaks down on the side of the road. And that might be you in bed. It might be you not being able to function because you're totally wiped out with anxiety and depression. Just depends on what it is. But find it, own it, reset it, and forget it. That's what it's all about, okay? Regulates the immune system. QNRT is going to regulate the immune system. It's going to balance your hormones. It's going to relieve joint pains and stuff like that. We do pain protocols all the time. It's going to help your memory, your sleep. It's going to, over time, help your digestive system, ultimately fertility if you get the stresses down enough. Decrease your worries and anxieties and your depression. It is amazing. I'm sure I've shared probably 20 times my wife Sarah's experience. She lost her sister in 2014. Becky was giving childbirth to Capri, and in the middle of it, she had an amniotic embolism, and just, she scooted down to the end of the table to begin the delivery process, and boom, party was over. Emergency C-section, got the baby out. Capri is a healthy young girl now, but Sarah could not function. Like, I'm leaving every day wondering, like, what is am I going to find when I come home? Trying to get her friends to get her out of the apartment when we were living in St. Paul and stuff like that. It was intense, and she couldn't stop grieving. She couldn't stop, basically uncontrolled grieving and sobbing, not feeling a sense of purpose. And then she went and had one QNRT reset, and she would joke about it now, but she couldn't make herself cry. If you've ever seen the movie The Holiday with Cameron Diaz, it's kind of funny. In that movie, she's kind of like completely shut off emotionally, and she's like looking around. I can't. There are no tears. So, as an example, Sarah couldn't make herself cry. Like, she almost didn't know what to do with herself, because she's like, "What? I went from being unable to function to now I can't." It just shuts it off. Is really what it is. It just shuts it, dead stops it. One of our team members had a little thing on her finger. It was a reaction. Lasered it, did a reset on it. The system started dissolving and releasing within a day, if not less. This stuff, I'm telling you, you got a symptom on your body and you haven't been cut open or hit by a car, it's coming from your brain. Okay, there's no two ways about it. If you understand that, then you say, okay, I gotta fix my brain, right? So, just think of it that way. As I mentioned earlier, you can't go back in time and change what happened. You can't sit at the poker table and ask for a different set of cards. Like, hey, this hand kind of sucks. Can I get a different hand? No. It's not about how bad a hand you got dealt. It's about what you do with it. And QNRT is one of the greatest opportunities you have in your life in order to say, okay, I'm going to take my cards, I'm going to rearrange them, and I'm going to play the best hand I can based on what I've been given, and I'm going to take a step up, and I'm going to use a tool like this in order to make it better. So you can't go back and start over, but you can start anew right now, because it's not where you start, it's where you end. Okay, so that's just a big takeaway here. Okay, so that's enough talk about that. Basically, what I'd like to do is bring in Vanna. I'm kidding, of course. That's Ella. Just show you just a quick, brief. Yeah, there she is. Say hi.
Hi.
All right, good. Okay, we'll say bye later.
What?
We'll say bye later.
Okay.
All right, good. So what we want to understand is we always start off with trying to get into the brain, which is through the hypothalamus. And one of the ways we do that, we check the cerebellum first. So what we do is we put the heels and toes together. This is called a Romberg test. Your hands at your side. Now here, close your eyes. Okay, so you see Ella drifted off. Hopefully you can see that. So just face the camera, and then keep my hands here. Okay, so see she's drifting off to that side. Okay, so then we would muscle test and find out what direction. So I'm gonna pen right here. So basically we'd have her follow her eyes down in different corners, and we would find different brain lobes. We could check distance as well, and we can flash for the brainstem midbrain. Okay, there's all different brain lobes we can check as far as understanding where her neuroemotional stress is being held. Okay, so basically once we find that, then we need to laser it in, and so the wall chart up here will tell us the different functions of the brain and also the different emotions that are associated with that. And when you understand that, then you start piecing the puzzle together. Okay, so then we go and we do the state of the adrenal system. Are the adrenals in alarm, resistance, or in exhaustion? Okay, off the thyroid. Is the nervous system in short-term, long-term, or confusion stress? Confusion stress is basically, I felt like my mom was emotionally withdrawn when I was 3, and then I fast forward 40 years, not quite, or something like that, to make an example, just so and all of a sudden I'm feeling someone emotionally withdrawn in my life. And my brain will literally start processing, like running a little video of what I used to experience, and the same hormones will pass through my body, and I'll start experiencing the same thing I did when I was 3 based on a current relationship, until I resolved that wound when I was 3, as an example. I'm just making something up right now. Okay, then we go to conflict types. We got mental conflict, auditory, visual, shame and guilt, emotional, relationship, physical, kinesthetic, which means can't really process it out, can't get over it, and then there's situational. So if there's like a situational event, okay? We can do different things. We can use what's called optokinetic tape, okay? OPK tape. If you run the stripes vertically like this, okay, you'll stress the brain in a way that stresses the structures. If you do it sideways and you just watch the stripes, then you can stress both of the cerebellum at one time, and that will let you a doorway into the immune system, the toxins, the environmental stressors, and any heavy metals that are trapped in there, okay? these are just ways we get in there, okay? And then we can use is sounds, okay? So we can use, I don't do it too loud. We can use sounds. We oftentimes use smells. Nice lime smell. We can use glasses, if you can see that. They blink at you. I know there's color therapy here. But basically what we do is we find the stressors. We find out who's involved. We find out what age it was at. We find out what the circumstances were, right? So flip open the chart. Let's just say that someone, very common thing people deal with is Epstein-Barr virus. So let's just say they were dealing with, maybe I felt like they made bad decisions when they were a kid. They felt like there was no hope for someone or something. They felt there was perfectionistic issues. They were tired of dealing with the same old thing over and over again. So it's a bunch of different things that are related to every different thing. Now what's interesting about different viruses and bacteria, funguses and parasites is they have families, right? So we have a homeopathic in this day and age. Now we've got everybody's freaking out about COVID-19. Well, we have homeopathic that actually supports people with corona-style viruses, and you can support an entire immune system based on one member of the family, if that makes sense. So you train the body how to adapt to an imbalance in one area, and it'll spread it across others. So just to give you an example, you can do that with heavy metals, you can do that with foods, all kinds of different stuff. We use, of course, green laser for inflammation, red laser for structural things like that. So let's just say Ella had a bum shoulder, right? Maybe siblings?
Sure.
Brother. Okay. In that case, she's got a brother. Maybe her shoulder is stressing her out, right? Maybe she had pain in there. Maybe she couldn't get out of the way. She was feeling some pressure, some stress from that relationship, and it would manifest in her shoulder because she can't get out of the way, right? She can't avoid that pressure, that stress. That's an example. Hips, of course, can't bear the load, can't carry the load, bearing someone else's stress. You know, I mean, the list goes on and on, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you think of people with acne, it's shyness, need for attention, wanting no attention, emotional volatility, emotional indifference. Those are things that can relate to the face. For skin's of course feeling defective, feeling flawed, insulted, you know, abused in some way, things like that. What you want to take away from this is that the body cannot lie. Okay, it will tell you everything you need to know, provided you know and have been trained on how to get that information. Well, for me, it's one of the big obsessions of my life because I know that I was dealt a hand that wasn't exactly optimal, and I was also had several experiences, many in my short life, that held me back. And I found that it didn't matter. I would always get better by taking supplements, and I would always get better by eating well, and I would always get better by doing PEMF. But until I started healing the brain and connecting the brain with the body, it didn't matter how much of that I did because it never got past a point. It was always, I'd get better and slide back a little bit. And I'd be like, well, what the heck? And what I know is when you heal the brain, you can use a thimbleful of nutrition, a thimbleful of the rest of it. But if you don't use and help heal the brain, it's like you got to back a dump truck up out in the back here and just start shoveling, you know, things in, or bathing your body in PEMF all the time, or making sure you eat squeaky clean. But what's crazy is, I can assure you, I have one of the most impeccable diets compared to most people, if you take averages. That's only to say that I still have digestive issues. What does that mean? I still have neuroemotional things to work through, which is a great opportunity. I don't look at it as a bad thing. I look at it as, hey, another opportunity to feel better. Another opportunity to say, okay, I don't have to worry about eating X, Y, or Z anymore because I don't have a sensitivity to that anymore because now I've healed that wound. It's just to give you an example of the kind of stuff, this is the profound nature, okay? But I think everybody could stand to have less stress because nobody has time to manage it. Everybody wants less stress. Well, unless you're just chucking things out of your life and saying, I'm not doing that anymore, I'm not going to talk with that person anymore, I'm not going to deal with that anymore, that job sucks, I'm going to quit that. Unless you're going to do that, most people can't do that. So you have to just cope. And basically what happens is you're like in a cage with a lion. You're either fighting, fleeing, or hiding. And most people are hiding from the lion. They don't want to upset, they don't want to rock the boat and stuff like that. So basically, it's a nuanced topic to try and explain to you and help you understand it, but it's easy when you feel it. And it has amazing and profound and lifelong lasting benefits. Like once your brain changes, your brain doesn't typically go back unless you go home to an abusive relationship. Those are the more challenging situations to work with when someone goes back to an environment where they're just constantly pushed back down, pushed back down, pushed back down. That's probably the biggest challenge. They need to be encouraged to change that environment. When they do, dramatic things can happen. but when you heal the brain, that's when your life transforms. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I guarantee you other people have the same questions, if not something similar. If you have any questions about how QNRT can benefit you, if it can benefit you, which if you have a brain and you're alive, it will benefit you. There's no question. I don't mean that kiddingly. I mean, it's funny, but it will help, okay? But we're here, we're obsessed with helping you live your best life and helping you feel unlimited. We would love the opportunity to help you with that. If that feels right for you, if this piques your interest and it sounds interesting, and you want to feel better now instead of continuing to go into talk therapy and kind of talk, well, would you be willing to talk about your experiences?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I've seen a therapist for the last year and a half and worked for Dr. Schilling for about 4 months and made more progress in the last 4 months than I did in that year and a half total.
Yeah.
And more changes in my life, and I feel better and I feel more confident. Yeah,
So
it's hard to explain
right.
how it works.
Yeah. So every one of our team members gets reset. I get reset on tomorrow morning. I'm meeting with my colleague. We get reset on Thursday mornings. So for me, it's like I could do. I like 1 in the morning, afternoon. Okay.
Yeah.
I've done 6 in a day before, and I've never had smoke in my ears. So I know my brain can handle it. But we typically limit it to maximum of 2 brain trainings, 2 neurotherapies, and 2 QNRT resets in a day when people come in from out of town and/or are doing an intense week here with us. So that's 10 resets and 10 brain trainings in a week is typically kind of where we cap it because it can be overwhelming, time-wise mostly, but definitely when people process the things emotionally that much in that period of time, it's transformative. You know, one of our participants, Kelly, came in and had debilitating foot pain for years, a couple of years, been to everybody in the world. We reset her 2 times a day for 5 days, and within a week, party was over with the foot pain. So pretty amazing stuff can happen when you connect the body with the brain and help resolve the traumas that are in there. So the opportunity is yours if you choose to accept it, sort of like Mission Impossible. You know, it's your mission should you choose to accept it. But we know it will change your life for the better, and you'll enjoy life more, feel better in your body, feel better in your relationships. And what's really cool is it's like dropping a stone in a pond and watching the ripples go out. When you change, everyone in your life changes for the better. It's not an exaggeration to say that this technique is changing the consciousness of society, because it's every time you hit a ripple into the pond, it's affecting every relationship. And at this point, we're at 3 degrees of freedom, 3 degrees of separation, right, instead of 6. Because you understand that really what's happening is we're affecting the lives of so many more people. So how you react to one person now, and you change that, that affects everybody. Okay, not just them, but everybody in their life too, because they start changing. Because you're not feeding into their relationship stresses, and you're not empowering them to take advantage of you, or you're not giving them power over you, or whatever it is for you. That's just what it is. Okay. So appreciate you guys' time this evening. We're super excited to share this with you. Doesn't do it justice to kind of what we just glossed over here, but we could spend hours talking about this. So let us know how we can help, and let us know how we can help transform your life. All right? We'll see you next week for the Wednesday Wellness Minutes, guys. Take care.
Have a good night.
All right. You can stay on the camera.
Don't stick for